fine weather for you. But like I said, I'm very delighted to be here this morning and welcome each of you. Williamson County Schools are, we have a 12-member school board.
Can I interrupt a second?
Yes, ma'am.
Folks in the back are saying that they're not able to see you. If there's any chance, could we get you just to stand?
Sure.
Can you all hear okay in the back?
Can you hear?
Are we okay? Excuse me for interrupting.
Is the mic on?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a 12-member school board. We are elected for 4-year terms on alternating 2-year cycles. So the odd number districts are elected, and then 2 years later we have election on the even number districts. Our school board has 4 primary responsibilities. That is leadership and governance through board policy, the selection and hiring of a superintendent, granting tenure, and setting a budget. We're about to begin our budget process for our 2013-14 school year here shortly. And we are not funded, self-funded. We are funded through our county commission. So we will begin that process, and we have to have a budget presented to that body by March 1st, or excuse me, April 1st, so that they can begin their process, and then they will approve ultimately the budget in July at their regular meeting. One of the things I think that has made a tremendous difference in our school system and the way it's operated, we were already very successful and knew that we were, but we began a strategic planning process 3 years ago that resulted in the document that I've placed at your place this morning. That looks like this. This is our roadmap that we are using to drive all of the decisions that we make for our district. This was quite an intense process. We had meetings held over the course of several months. We met with community leaders, we met with chambers of commerce, we met with parents, we met with students, we had online surveys, and we took all this information and we gathered it into a document. The board sat together for several days and determined what we wanted our district to look like based upon the feedback that we received from the community, and that resulted in this document. Every decision that we make, all of the business that we conduct, this document guides us to do that. We receive a report every month from our superintendent on the progress that we're making on these goals. Currently one of our most lofty goals, and one that has kind of raised some eyebrows throughout the community, is a K-12 foreign language program. The district tried that probably about 10 years ago with very, very good intentions. It was not successful because about the time that started, our growth started. So naturally our resources that we had perhaps to put into that were kind of took a side trip and went into managing our growth, because we are our enrollment is 33,000 at this point, but 10 years ago it was 20. So you can see that we've grown by 13,000 students, which has resulted in a lot of capital projects, increase in the need for personnel and that sort of thing. So that's where our resources were diverted. So we actually disbanded the foreign language program that we had, because it was not, there was no cohesive link to it K through 12. So now we've stepped back, we're exploring a new foreign language program, and we're actually looking at Spanish and Chinese. So we currently have that, we're exploring that right now. We are working on curriculum, what that looks like, how we can develop it system-wide, so that when we do roll it out again, it will be successful for all students. We will still continue to offer other foreign languages such as Latin, German, French, Russian, Italian, whatever students express an interest in at the high school level, but the K through 12 program will either be Spanish or Chinese, or perhaps both. Let's see, what else can I share with you this morning? The board's primary, like I said, responsibilities are to make sure that the district is well run. And we delegate the authority and the responsibility for running the district to the superintendent. So the superintendent and his staff run our district on a day-to-day basis. The board actually, like I said, governs and leads through our development of board policy. I think one of the things that has made a big difference in the way that we have conducted our business is by basing all of our decisions on data. And Dr. Looney has actually developed, had our technology department develop a data dashboard. He has it in his office, and I wish I could have brought a picture this morning. But it actually reveals, he can tell you at any given time how many teachers are absent, how many students are absent, what the enrollment is. It has all these gauges on it. It looks kind of like the dashboard of a car. And we use all of that information that we collect through that source as well as other sources to make our decisions, and make them based on data. We make purposeful decisions, and we stay focused on what our tasks are. And again, back on the strategic plan. That is I think has been one of our most successful accomplishments that the board has undertaken in the past several years. The board also works very hard to try to develop ourselves professionally. We have actually established goals for ourselves outside of the district's goals. One of the goals, we have 3 goals that we've established for ourselves for this current school year. There is I don't know if the state of Georgia does value-added test scores, but the state of Tennessee has TCAP and TVAS scores, and the TVAS scores are based upon the student's growth. So there is a course, an 8-hour course that's online, and our board members are required to complete that course so that we can understand what it looks like for a student to be successful. Because in a district such as ours, where students generally perform at a very high level, there has generally been the mindset that it's hard to get a student to grow a full year. This program dispels that myth, and I think that's one of the things that has led to our success and continued success over the past several years with our TCAP and TVAS scores, is that every child is growing a full year. So if they, if they start out at if they're a 4th grader and say they begin 4th grade as a 4th year, 5th month, they should end the year as a 5th grader, 5th month. And that's the approach that we've taken, so that every child has the opportunity for a full year's of growth. Additionally, if a student is behind, we've implemented ways for those students to get caught up so that they get on their grade level and that they can perform with their peers at the same grade level. So the board, like I said, is taking the Patel course for kids. We've also undertaken the task of writing a new board member handbook so that those individuals in the community who are interested in serving on the school board will understand prior to beginning that process what the board's role is and how we operate, so that we can maintain our focus and not get sidetracked with individuals who perhaps are interested in something other than service to the board and the community. We have also, I lost my train of thought there. We've also decided that we are going to develop a legislative action plan for Williamson County Schools. As a high-performing district, we're somewhat of an anomaly sometimes with legislation that is passed at the state level. So we have decided that we're going to meet, discuss potential pieces of legislation that are before the state and take a position on those ourselves, and perhaps write some legislation of our own. We have done that in the past, and we plan to continue to do that. And so we're going to begin that process in the 1st of November to get that legislative process beginning. So like I said, we have set 3 goals for ourselves. So we're a very busy board, and support our superintendent, and I think that has led us to have a very successful school district.
Quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
So what's your budget?
Our budget is about our general purpose operating budget is around $248 million.
Thank you.
How many schools and kids?
We have 33,000 approximately 33,000 students. We have 41 schools. We have 8 high schools, 9 middle schools, and 21 elementary schools.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Pat, can you expand on the CTE program I'm reading about in your strategic plan?
Tell me exactly
The
where.
career and technical education program.
We have a very rigorous career and technical education program, and I don't know if Matt Largen hit on that this morning in his presentation, but we work cooperatively with a lot of different entities, including the Department of Economic Development, with our local businesses. We have career and technical education in all of our high schools. We do not have any magnet schools in Williamson County. We try to offer courses of study that is of interest to students in a particular area. Right now there is a very big interest from the business community to expand on information technology types of courses, because there are lots of jobs in the area that a student could actually graduate from high school and get a very good position in that field. So we have everything from culinary arts. We only have that in 2 of our high schools. It's a very sought after program. We have automotive courses in 2 of our high schools that deal with everything from automobile body repair to actual engine repair. Then we have a lot of other types of more technical drafting, different courses that go to agriculture. And one of our high schools is located in an area of the county that's very supportive. Our students are zoned through transportation zones, and you are required to attend that school. However, if you have an interest as a high school student to participate in one of those CTE courses and there is space available, you can actually apply to go out of zone to that school. The downside is that you have to provide your own transportation, but we do permit students to cross transportation zone lines to attend those for the purpose of those courses.
Do you have many students who make that choice?
Yes, actually we have a good number of students that make that choice. And we also have an international baccalaureate program, which also factors into that as well. So, and that's at one high school. So we do have a good number of students that do express interest in pursuing their interest or in those particular fields. And in some cases, we're not able to grant their attendance at that school because the course is full due to the students perhaps that are zoned to that particular school.
You offer AP classes as well?
Yes, we do. We have about 25 AP classes that are system-wide. We have a very good track record on our AP scores. We probably have more students enrolled in AP classes than we do in honors classes. But we have 25 different AP classes that we offer countywide, and most of them are offered in all of our high schools.
And if you don't mind me adding, we also do dual enrollment.
Absolutely.
As a partnership with Columbia State.
We do. We have a lot of students that actually take advantage of that arrangement. Yes, sir.
Does that intense data-driven process include demographics that look back, say, 4 years to project cohort survival rates and populations by grade in school, so you can tailor your educational programs and facilities to that factually driven projection?
I'm not sure if I fully understand your question, but I'll try to answer.
Is the process for determining future facilities and education programs data-driven based on the demographics of your existing population and then some of the growth that the mayor talked about, possibly anybody leaving the school system? How formal a process is that?
Well, our decision on school location, I think that's where
So how many do you need, what grades?
we look at our, we have a formula that we follow in determining, because we work with planning commission, the planning commission, to determine where the growth is. And let me just kind of qualify that by saying that not always is growth due to new construction.
Sure.
We have 3 schools this year that are in a very stable growth area that are actually experiencing a tremendous amount of growth. And it's where the area is older, so the residents there are empty nesters, and they're moving out and moving into some other type of housing, and young families are moving in. So that has created a growth spurt in that area. But as far as planning goes for new construction, we have a formula that we follow with that relates to, kind of follows with the pricing of the home as it relates to what that looks like with the number of students that would probably reside in that home. We hit those numbers within 1/10 of 1%, which is pretty incredible in an area that's growing as quickly as we are. The challenge there is figuring out what the package is going to look like. And by that I mean, is it going to be, we may know the number of students totally, but we may not hit the number with regard to, is it a high school student or is it an elementary student? But we do look at the growth. When we have growth, we've already identified several areas that we have growth. We have, right now, the county commission is about to consider a $176 million capital plan that we are requesting for an intent to fund. And we have already identified a need for a new high school in the eastern part of the county, as well as a K through 8, and that would be a school that would cover those two grade level configurations. Maybe one facility, it may be two. We haven't quite got to that point yet. But we look at the growth in the area, and once that we've identified where that is, we begin the search for land, and we identify where that will be. When we actually start construction of that new facility, we will step back and look at rezoning. And what we do is we start to adjust zone lines. We have gone through that process all but 2 years in the last 10 of aligning growth boundaries. 2 years ago, we did a countywide realignment, because as growth had occurred and populations had shifted, we recognized that maybe we needed to step back and look at the whole entire county. And of course, our ultimate goal is to have a feeder system that a student, if they reside in the same home, can go K through 12 through the same group of schools. Currently, we don't have that in all of our transportation zones. We have 2 that we have splits going from elementary to middle and from middle to high school. But we try to keep the numbers large enough that a student is not, we don't have one group from one little street that's going to a new school. We try to keep it in a number that they will enter that building with someone that they know. So that's, we look at that and how we do not zone by, we don't identify people, by social economics, or we don't look at race. We don't zone that way. We zone areas because we think it's important for students to be in their neighborhood, whatever their neighborhood is. So that's how we conducted our zoning.
And what process did you use? For instance, we're looking at that right now, and we have citizens on a committee, but what process do you guys use when you start to look at rezoning?
We actually, our staff looks at the information that's available, and our staff brings the recommendation to the board. We have tried a number of different ways to conduct rezoning. We have, back probably about 10 years ago, we had formed a citizens committee, and what you found is, I want mine to stay where I want mine to be, and you want yours to stay where theirs, and so it just became a free-for-all. And what happened is, at the end of the day, the board, based upon the information, didn't agree with all the recommendations that were coming, and the neighborhoods were fighting with each other and that sort of thing. So now what we do is our staff actually studies the information. They have very good information, and they study that. They bring a recommendation forth to the board. We look at it, discuss it. Sometimes there's information that perhaps we may know that's more relevant to our particular area that maybe staff hasn't thought of. or maybe they have, but we're able to raise that question. And if they think that things need to be adjusted, they go back and readjust it. I will tell you from our experience, every time, because as elected officials, although we're, nonpartisan, you're going to hear someone tell you that this is what they want and that they elected you for that purpose. As I've told people when we've had those meetings, because we do have community meetings to share the information, there are probably that many more opinions in the room as well, because everyone has their own opinion on what it should look like and what they would like for things to be. So, and every time that we have not taken the staff's recommendation, where there has been an amendment made on the floor by a board member to adjust a line, and they have convinced, we require 7 votes for approval. If they convince 7 other individuals of that, in every instance, the board has been back within 2 years readjusting the decision that was made.
From the staff.
From the staff. We try to zone for 5 years. If you look at our website, we say that we only guarantee your attendance in your zone school for the current year. Because we are growing so fast that we do have to make adjustments, but we have tried to honor and stick to 5 years. But in the cases where there have been adjustments made, that has not been successful, and we have been back doing that again in 2 years. So staff does it without any, we kind of set the parameters up front of what we want it to look like. Staff understands that. There's no prejudice that goes into making those decisions, and then the board approves it. We've kind of adopted the philosophy, if we don't feel good before we hit the floor with it, then we need to step back, because we need to feel very comfortable with the decisions that we're going to make. Yes, sir.
2 questions. First of all, how do you determine the districts that are represented by the school board? And the second part of the question is, do you have optimal capacity numbers that you keep in mind for particularly your middle and high schools?
The districts are not determined by the board. The districts are determined under the statute from the state legislature. We just actually went through a redistricting of our districts. So we have 12 districts in Williamson County, and those districts have been adjusted recently because of the census. The desire was to have 15,000 individuals residing in each of those districts. So they just went through, my district today does not look like it did 8 years ago. That districting does not have any type of impact on our schools with regard to their transportation and their
population driven.
It's a population driven. You might refresh me on the second part of your question.
The optimal number or the capacity at middle school and high school level.
Right. We know what those numbers are, and we try to keep those numbers below what the maximum capacity numbers are, so that we do allow for that growth and we have that wiggle room there. Sometimes that doesn't always happen. Just like I was explaining earlier, we have 3 schools that we have actually had an explosion of growth in just because of housing turnovers in that area. But we do keep an eye on those numbers. We get a report on those, and those are updated monthly.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
You said you were nonpartisan, but you have 12 different districts. How do you vote for your school board members? Does everybody vote for the school board members, or do you have district voting?
We are elected from our specific district that we represent. The school board has 12 members, and there are 12 voting districts in Williamson County. The county commission has 2 county commissioners that represent them per district. So they're a body of 24. And we are elected from our particular district, but from the school board's perspective, we represent the entire county, and our decisions are for the greater good of Williamson County schools.
That you're elected from your district?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to reside in your district, but are you elected at large by everybody voting for you, or only people in your district?
You have to reside in your district, and you are only elected by the individuals that reside in your district. Yes, ma'am.
Back to CTE for a minute. For the students that follow the CTE track, what percentage come back for jobs in Williamson County post graduation, either with
Your baccalaureate, I mean, your international baccalaureate program,
Yes, sir.
if, I take it you offer that in one school,
Yes, sir.
is that, are all students eligible to go to that regardless of its capacity, I guess, in that zone that it happens to be in?
Students from across the district are permitted to attend the International Baccalaureate program, and to ensure that we have prepared them for entry into that program. I don't know how familiar you are with International Baccalaureate, but that program actually has some prerequisites to the 9th grade. So in order to make sure that all of our students from across the county are prepared for that, we offer the prerequisites for entering into that program at all of our middle schools. So those students, can apply, they go through an application process, and then they are, if they want to do the work, they are allowed to do that. However, if a student, because as you probably all know, there's a lot of times that students enter into something with a different end result, perhaps not what the stated result was. If a student enters into one of those CTE programs or International Baccalaureate, and they do not, they withdraw from that program, they are required to go back to their zone school. So they cannot stay there for, say, athletics. If they decide that they're using that as a vehicle to get into a school that they would prefer to attend because of a particular athletic program, but they can do that, but they have to maintain enrollment in the program. I believe you had a question.
You mentioned that you had 3 of the 41 schools were over capacity, over 100% utilization.
Yes, sir.
And how do you deal with that to start with, and then 2, what are your least utilized facilities?
At this point, we really don't have a lot of least used facilities. We have a few. We have a few schools. One in particular, we have about 400 middle school seats available. One of the schools that I'm speaking about that's over capacity is the middle schools, but it's located at the farthest northern part of the county, and the other one that has available seats is almost as far south as you can go. So, in order to achieve a feeder system, as I explained earlier, where a student can go all the way through, to make a decision, to make a movement, to take those students and take them to fill those 400 seats would require another rezoning, which would also have an impact on all the other schools in the area. So we are not proposing to make a change like that at this time. We have those empty seats. We know our building, there are seats and space available for those students for this school year, but knowing what we know right now, we're looking forward to next school year and what we can do to make sure that those students have what they need in the crowded building. And some of what we're doing with this new high school and this other K-8 facility that I mentioned in the eastern part of the county, we will begin a movement of those students in another direction over time.
So,
Yes.
so I'm guessing you haven't had to close any schools?
We have closed one school 2 years ago in our rezoning process. We closed a school that was located in the western part of the county, had been there for many years. It only had a capacity of 100 students. And in looking at that school, it was a very difficult decision for the board to make, but in looking at the school and the students that it served, and the fact that there were it was an elementary, there were 2 other elementary schools in the general vicinity that had space available, it did not make good financial sense for us to keep that school open, offer those students, obviously our interest is making sure that those students have the same opportunities as the other students across the district. So we made a very difficult decision to close that school.
You need bloodshed?
No, but lives were threatened. Yes.
I'm interested, having a school board with 12 members on it, your process for balancing that healthy dialogue and differing opinions with keeping together as a united vision for the board. Can you share a little bit about how you all do that?
I'll just say I think we have an outstanding I'm very honored to be a part of this body. I don't know that you probably could ask other folks if they could look back to a number of years ago prior to my election to that body. That may not have always been the case. And I think the community was very interested in getting a school board that was focused on what was important in our county, which is the children. Because obviously that's our future. The children of our district are our future. And as the lady here said, you know, we want them to leave and come back. We don't want them to leave and stay gone. And there's a lot of opportunities here. So our board works very hard and works very well together. We've gone through a process over the last year. We're required by the state to have a code of ethics. And we have always had a code of ethics, but this year we decided perhaps we needed to look at our code of ethics and see, did we really need to take another look at it, redesign it, reword it, and we actually did. We went back and decided that maybe we needed to kind of beef it up a little bit. If any of you are interested, you can view that. It's on our website under our board policies. It's 1.107, and it has the code of ethics attached to it. We read it, we sign it, and we mean it. We also went through a process of developing board norms. This was something that we felt was important so that it kind of establishes our ground rules for working with each other. We've been through some kind of tumultuous times as a school board. We had a unilateral dismissal of a superintendent. We went through a search that we had, and I actually gave you all, because I believe I understand you all are about to go through a search process. I gave you a copy of a pamphlet or a flyer that we used, that we developed as part of that search. That search, we've been very methodical about how we've operated. We actually had a 33-question questionnaire about the qualities we were looking for in a superintendent. Everything from, did we feel it was important that they have a PhD, to were they a good communicator, and those types of things. We gave everyone in the community an opportunity to view that document and to vote. And we took the top 10 things off of that and developed that flyer. That was our focus. What that said, we set our game rules out up front, and that was our focus. It was the items that are on that list. We went through a search, and when we got to the end, we did not feel that we had found our person. And I will tell you that was not easy, because the community is their kind of the mindset was, how dare you? What do you mean you've gone through a search and you don't have a person? We were unanimous. We did not feel like we had been presented a candidate that was the right fit for Williamson County Schools to be our next leader. Someone who was truly a visionary that could take us to the next level. So we stepped back our search firm did not recommend that we do that. We were told we would not be able to find someone. It was the wrong time of the year to be searching for a superintendent. And we said, okay, we have an outstanding interim superintendent. We're very comfortable with him, and we're going to plug ahead. So we did that. We widened the search again. We came back at a time, like I said, that we were told we could not find a superintendent. We found one, and we're very excited because he is the right fit for our school district. And I think the proof is in the pudding when you look at how we have moved in the short period of time that he has been here. It was a very intense and a very time-consuming process for the board. But you know, we stood up and we're very united in our work and developing what the plan is. And I think that's been one of the keys, is in everything that we do, we lay out the ground rules up front and follow them and stick to what we said, because we enter all of those processes without any type of prejudice. We do it with looking at big picture, the greater good of our county and our school district.
Thank you so much.